Hello everybody! Today's video will be a bit different because I want to tell you a crazy story that happened to me at the end of 2025. I've been working on this video for weeks and months now in order to tell you about this incident, how I perceived it, and also to get it out of my system. This is a story about scoring contests and big achievements, but also about betrayal and big disappointments. This is the story of the International Film Music Competition 2025. The International Film Music Competition is one, if not the most renowned scoring contest on the planet. Every year, hundreds of composers participate in order to win the Golden Eye for Best International Film Music and 10,000 Swiss francs. It has no age limit, but it is only for aspiring composers with no more than 3 feature-length films listed on their IMDb page. The task is to write a new orchestral score for a short film provided by the competition. Not only do you have to produce a convincing mock-up, but also to notate the score as sheet music, because the jury is comprised of filmmakers, composers, and a conductor. Then the jury selects the 3 best scores for the finals, which are then performed live by the Tonhalle Orchestra Zurich as part of a gala concert at the Zurich Film Festival. In this concert, the jury picks and announces the winner of the Golden Eye. Among former jury presidents were such high-ranking film composers as Howard Shore or Don Davis. And in 2025, in the 13th edition of the Zurich competition, the jury was chaired by the Oscar-winning Icelandic composer Hildur Guðnadóttir. 170 composers from 36 countries entered the competition. And the film that had to be scored was a 7-minute animation short called Wild Love. This year was my 7th attempt to get in the finals of the competition. Unfortunately, you don't get a feedback from the jury in the Zurich competition, so all I ever got was an email saying, "Sorry Gary, you're not in the finals, but these guys are." But recently I found out that you just can write the organizers an email and ask them how your entry did. And then they might at least tell you, okay, you were on the shortlist, good luck next time, or you were not on the shortlist, maybe your entry had some technical difficulties like the wrong file format, stuff like this. But even without this information, I've learned a lot of things about competitions in the last years, especially by listening to pieces of former finalists, which you can find on YouTube. I got the movie at the beginning of May, and the deadline for the piece was June 16th. So I booked 12 days on my schedule to write and produce the mock-up and 2 more days for notating the sheet music. The movie Wild Love is the story of a couple on a hiking trip in the Alps who get in trouble with a group of marmots. It starts cute and funny, but it turns really dark in the second half. That's why I was looking for something that sounds heavy but also in a tongue-in-cheek way. The first scene that I worked on was a chase scene in the middle of the film, because it was the perfect spot to write some heavy action music and to develop a lot of musical material. Before orchestrating, I usually start by sketching my ideas on the piano. So this is how my initial idea sounded like. I was pretty satisfied with it, but I also wondered if there's a more unusual way to convey the action in this scene. And that's why I took my old electric guitar and tried some chord riffs along with the chase scene. And that's what I came up with. For me this was
ticking all the boxes.
It totally fitted my understanding of the movie. It was heavy, it had a memorable instrumentation, and it supported the humor of the story. So I decided to stick with it and incorporate it also in other parts of the movie. Here. There. and everywhere. Then in mid-July, when I had almost forgotten about the competition, I got a phone call from Switzerland. A young man told me that I had been chosen as one of the 3 finalists of the International Film Music Competition, which had been a dream of mine for years, so of course I was completely overjoyed. Being a guest at a film festival with a fancy hotel, visiting industry meetings and being performed by one of the best orchestras of Europe felt like a dream come true. Soon after this, my preparations began. I had to plan the trip to Zurich, revise the score of my piece, improving the notation and the layout, prepare the single parts for all the musicians, and I also remastered the electronic accompaniment track, which contained the electric guitars for the live concert. Another task for the finalists was to provide some video or photo material of their hometown and their working environment, which then would be used for some presentation videos of the contestants played before their entry in the gala concert. For me, this was a great opportunity to enjoy the last days of summer vacation in my German hometown, Cottbus. I felt like a tourist in my own town, filming some footage of the most notable sites. And before long, the time had come to pack my suitcase and start my trip to Zurich. At the beginning of October 2025, I went to Zurich on a sleeper train. The final of the International Film Music Competition is part of the Zurich Film Festival, which I attended for 5 days. I was accommodated in a comfortable hotel and the festival provided drivers who transported us to different events, for example industry meetings with directors, music supervisors and agents. I also attended panels with experienced film composers. And parallel to the film festival, there was the Soundtrack Zurich, a special film music conference which features interviews, lectures, film screenings and concerts. Here I had the chance to meet fellow composers and to participate in matchmaking events with media professionals. And yes, the finalists also had to participate in a photo shooting on the so-called green carpet. The most exciting part for sure were the 2 rehearsals of our pieces with the famous Tonhalle Orchestra. The Tonhalle is a wonderful concert hall located next to the lakeside of Lake Zurich. It is known for its brilliant acoustics and its glamorous interior. During the rehearsals, every finalist had 30 minutes for his piece, which sounds good in theory, but it actually went by really fast and you had to be absolutely concise with the remarks for the musicians. Fortunately, the members of the Tonhalle Orchestra are really fast at implementing remarks and they effortlessly mastered even the most difficult musical passages. It was a great experience to hear the lush and warm tone of these excellent musicians performing my music. And the working atmosphere was really nice and friendly, especially with the conductor Frank Strobel. On this day I also got to know the other 2 finalists. Antonio Di Iorio is an Italian composer who has been living in LA for over 10 years now. He worked as an assistant for several top-notch composers, especially Tom Holkenberg, aka Junkie XL, with whom he co-wrote the music to such blockbuster franchises as Godzilla x Kong or Sonic the Hedgehog. Then there was Victor, a nice young guy from Germany who studied musicology. He had a big knowledge of soundtracks and classical music, and he adored John Williams, especially his score for Star Wars. Even though Victor had no plans of becoming a film composer whatsoever, he still managed to get into the finals of the Zurich competition at his first try. The 3 of us had a nice time together. We chatted, we laughed, and we attended several industry events together. After the competition, I had 2 more days to watch some new films at the festival and to explore the city a little longer. As you can see here, I also enjoyed a stormy boat trip on Lake Zurich. But now, let's talk about the main event of the whole trip. On the evening of October 2nd, the big moment had come. Over 1,400 listeners came to hear the gala concert of the festival in order to find out who will win the Golden Eye for Best International Film Music. I had been looking forward to this day for so long and I was really excited and nervous to see how it will go. After an opening piece and a short presentation of the contestants, the competition began. Antonio's piece was played first, and it made for a great start. It featured seamless spotting, masterful orchestration, and great musical ideas. For me, his piece really fit the film like a glove. The audience also liked Antonio's piece very much. Next up was Victor's entry. It combined late romantic film noir vibes with tense atonal action music. For my taste, the dark foreshadowing at the beginning felt a bit disconnected from the picture, and in parts the score even sounded old-fashioned. But nonetheless, this was masterful orchestral writing with lush harmonies and strong themes, and the audience was excited about it too. Then it was my turn. My version of Wild Love was a cheeky mixture of colorful Hollywood sounds and heavy indie guitar riffs. Besides supporting the humor, I also tried to create an emotional impact. And what should I say? I guess the audience liked it. Now, the Zurich competition has no audience prize, so of course this doesn't count. But besides all competitions, film music is about reaching the audience and moving people, and that's why this one moment felt really great. During the break, people came to me and said that they loved my piece and wanted to make a photo with, quote, the winner, but I was thinking, yeah, let's wait and see about that. Then, after the break, the big moment had come, and the jury came to the stage to announce the winner of the Golden Eye 2025. We had to choose one person, and what we were excited about was innovation and hearing a language developing, an identity developing. We felt a strong sense of creative spirit in this work, and this we celebrate. There was a real language developing that we would be excited to hear more of. So we would like to hand this Golden Eye to Victor. They gave it to Victor, the one finalist who said that he doesn't want to become a film composer. So this took a moment to sink in, but then I decided to get over it, and I was happy for him. So I congratulated Victor. He was such a talented young guy, and the fact that he won this prize on his first attempt made his success even more impressive. The evening continued with famous film soundtracks from Hitchcock to Hildur Guðnadóttir. She also received a Career Achievement Award and held another speech. Afterwards there were some drinks and dessert. We made some photos together. I had a really nice talk with the conductor, and even though I had to accept the fact that I didn't win this competition, I still had a nice time and met a lot of wonderful people who complimented me on my work. So this was the end of my big adventure of going to the finals of the International Film Music Competition. At least that's what I thought. About 1 month later, I was on holiday hiking in the Julian Alps of Slovenia. And one day I got a WhatsApp message from somebody that I also met in Zurich called Oliver. I clicked on the link and I was quite surprised. This music felt pretty familiar. It sounded a lot like the beginning of Victor's piece from Zurich, only that Oliver's link led to the film The Bride of Frankenstein from 1935. And the real composer of this music was Franz Waxman. Immediately I started to realize that something about Victor's entry was off. Oliver's answer was even more concerning. Now let's compare the music of Victor and Waxman. Hear for yourself if you see any similarities. Here's the track from The Bride of Frankenstein again. And here's how Victor's piece sounded in the concert. It's unbelievable, right? To me they are almost identical. Unfortunately, the rules of the competition don't allow me to play you the recording of the concert in Zurich, but I easily managed to make a pretty accurate reconstruction of Victor's piece by using a recording of the Westminster Philharmonics and adding some plugins and samples. Why was it so easy? Because Victor actually copied Waxman's music note for note. He used the same melodies, the same rhythms, even the harmonies stayed untouched. Apart from some minor orchestration additions and timing adjustments, his own artistic contribution seems almost non-existent. Here's another example from the credits where he used Franz Waxman's music. This also explains why his music felt old-fashioned to me. But he didn't stop at only copying music from the 30s. Maybe you have heard it already when I played you the action sequence earlier, but if you didn't, try to remember who his favorite film composer was. Yes, he even ripped off John Williams, one of the greatest film composers in history. In my opinion, this was shameless fraudulent plagiarism, and it happened right before my eyes. Needless to say that it didn't comply with the rules, which explicitly state that you have to own the rights of the music that you send in. In fact, most of Victor's piece was just a note-for-note copy of different cues from Star Wars. And he left them in the same key, he didn't change the harmonies or the rhythm, he just stitched everything together without even providing tonal transitions. But enough with Star Wars. How about some Indiana Jones? This white line represents the entire 7 minutes of Victor's piece. And now the call-out parts show you which areas were plagiarized. That's at least 95%. To me it seems like the remaining white spots were just the ones where the original hasn't been found yet. It seems like there might not be a single note in the whole piece which wasn't stolen. And this is the winner of the International Film Music Competition we're talking about. And now you might ask, didn't anybody notice? This was a concert room full of film music enthusiasts. They were composers, film music students, directors, and of course the jury. The simple answer is, Some people noticed. A little bit. Already in the rehearsals, 2 separate composers came to me and said that Victor's piece sounded a lot like Star Wars. Now, as a film composer, you hear this comparison all the time. So, unfortunately, I didn't take it serious enough. Even when one of the composers explicitly told me that one spot in Victor's piece was Kylo Ren's theme from Star Wars, note for note. But what about the jury? Wouldn't it have been their job to notice something like this? First of all, for the selection of the finalists, there was a pre-selection jury. As far as I know, nobody raised any concerns about plagiarism at this stage. And then there was another jury, namely the prestigious main jury for the concert. And from what I've heard, yes, they noticed some similarities. I don't know to what extent, but they didn't take any actions against this. Instead, they came out to the stage and told everybody that they were excited about Victor's innovation and language developing. And we are talking about music that was partly 90 years old. Maybe my fault was that I'm not a big John Williams connoisseur, and I bet Hildur Guðnadóttir, who writes in a vastly different style, might not be one either. But I clearly heard that this music sounded like an old movie from the 30s, and yet the jury was talking about innovation. At least there was one person in the audience who noticed the bigger dimension of the plagiarism. Oliver is an expert on John Williams music, and he is very familiar with the soundtrack to the Star Wars franchise. He had already noticed strong similarities in the rehearsals, and in the days after the concert he had started a meticulous research trying to spot all the different parts of Victor's entry which were copied. And he found a lot. He notated all the plagiarized parts and their respective originals, each with a YouTube link and an exact timestamp. By the way, all the comparisons which are present in this video are also based on the report that Oliver compiled. As he later told me, during the rehearsals he even went to Victor telling him about all the Star Wars quotes that he had noticed in his music. But Victor just laughed him directly in the face, ending the discussion. When he came home, he started to compile his plagiarism report and informed me about his findings. In these days, Oliver and I were messaging back and forth about whom to address and how to communicate with the organizers of the competition. Of course, we were upset about Victor's fraud, so we were asking for his disqualification and the return of the prize, including the prize money. Once ready, we decided to send the report to the main organizers of the competition, namely the Zurich Film Festival, Forum Filmmusik and the Tonhalle Gesellschaft Zurich. The organizers received the report on October 27th. They asked for some time to process the matter internally. And when 10 days had passed, we asked them politely for an update. But we only got a short apology and no new information. Then 2 more weeks passed in silence. So I decided to write the organizers and demanded at least an unofficial statement whether they agree that Victor had committed plagiarism or not. I also encouraged the festival and the film music competition to change their web presentation of the finals into something more neutral. It was pretty obvious that Victor had cheated, and yet the organizers gave him a big spotlight in headlines, articles and photos on their websites. The reaction from the festival was not what I had asked for, but at least they revealed to us that they had hired an external musicologist to examine Victor's entry, and they got some legal advice on the matter. We had to wait 1 more week until the festival got back the examination results, and surprise, surprise, yes, Victor had stolen significant parts of his piece. Who would have thought? They decided that Victor will be retroactively disqualified, which is great. And they also gave us a timeline of the next steps that would be taken till the publication. But they also let us know that no other winner will be announced. Honestly, this left me very disappointed. Over months I had been working on this competition, I really had invested so much time and effort, and they couldn't manage to just choose another winner. I even signalized to the festival that I would have been absolutely fine with them splitting the prize between the 2 remaining finalists. But all my objections were ignored. The one thing I heard several times was, "We will consider your points," but their actions never felt like they really cared. It still took the organizers 1 more month to make a public statement on the case. First, they made the text accessible hidden deep in the archive tab of the competition's website, which must have been a technical error since the main homepage still announced that Victor was the winner of the contest. They needed one more week to correct this mistake, so the final statement came out on December 23rd. Yes, one day before Christmas, a time when most people have other things to do than focusing on scoring competitions. This was bad publicity, not only for Victor, but also the competition itself. So I got a feeling that this release date might not be a coincidence. The announcement came out 3 months after the concert, 2 months after they received the report, and it took them so long to acknowledge an instantly recognizable case of plagiarism. Here is what their statement had to say. The evaluation confirmed that substantial passages of the winning composition were derived from protected works without creating the required copyright distance. The winner has therefore been disqualified retrospectively. As a result, no winner will be awarded for the 2025 edition. When we asked the organizers for their reasons not to reassign the prize, they answered that no second and third place had been announced. But if you consider the fact that they get back not only the prize from Victor, but also the 10,000 Swiss francs, then I guess this might have been enough budget for them to get back the jury for a short Zoom call where they listen again to the pieces and decide for the real winner. This could have taken 20 minutes. Just as a quick side note, let's take the example of the Olympics. Over the last 100 years, because of doping and other reasons, there have been around 160 medals that were withdrawn due to disqualification. And now guess how many of them have been reallocated to the next fair athlete? 94% of them. And even in the Oscars and the Emmys, reallocating nominations and awards is common practice. But the Zurich case is not only about the main prize. If it wasn't for Victor, there would have been a rightful third finalist who got robbed of his possibility to visit the festival and to get performed by a live orchestra. I think it would have been fair to announce this third finalist and maybe give him a free ticket for the next festival as compensation. I entered the competition under the premise that if I pay the entrance fee and if by accident I write the best score for this special film, then I can win 10,000 Swiss francs. And now I had to realize that this was never really possible because one guy decided to cheat and everybody else got punished along with him. For 3 months, Victor was presented as the winner in articles and photos on the websites of the competition and the festival. The only institution that acted faster was the Tonhalle, which took down their article about Victor's win shortly after they received Oliver's report. As I discovered recently, while editing this video, still in June, Victor was presented as the winner of the competition at the website of the Zurich Film Festival. And it's been half a year now since his disqualification. With all that being said, I accept the decision they made. I don't think it's a fair or good one, but I still accept it. So, what's the lesson here? Competitions are a little bit like playing lottery. Sure, you can raise your chances by studying a lot and writing good pieces, but in the end it's still up to a jury and therefore a matter of taste. Since art is not measurable like athletic sports, and I think that's a good thing. You have to be in it for the learning experience, the rest is luck. And believe me, I've been learning a lot during the last years of the Zurich competition, especially this year. Victor Frankensteining his piece and winning this famous scoring contest went against my artistic beliefs. And even more, it has also shaken my trust in people. He really seemed like a nice guy the whole time in Zurich, but at the same time he knew that he was betraying the people around him. That being said, please don't bother the guy. What he did was clearly wrong and illegal, but he had to return the prize and I don't want to give him any more attention than necessary. That's also why I decided to change his name and blur his face in this video, so please leave him be. I only made this video to get this crazy story off my chest and be done with it. And still, I don't understand why he acted this way. Maybe it was naivety or greed. I don't know. I even contacted him to find out about his motivations, but he didn't explain his reasons. And what about me? Of course, I've been disappointed by the ending of the story. But I came to realize that my value as a composer is not defined by competitions or awards. I think it's much more important to gather new experiences, to believe in your own artistic expression, and to connect with new, wonderful people. And being at the Zurich Film Festival helped me to do all these things. So even though I had to deal with some unfairness in the situation, I still walk out of it with more confidence, and I'm looking forward to the things that are about to come. But what are your thoughts about this whole story? I'd really be interested to hear them. Please let me know in the comments. And thanks for watching till the end. Have a nice day. Bye bye.